You are now watching the Amazin Mets PreGame Show with your hosts, Rob and CP.
Let's go Mets! Let's go Mets! Let's go Mets! Let's go Mets!
What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to the Amazin Mets PreGame Show right here on the channel. I will be going with you solo tonight as CP has other obligations, but I will bring you the best coverage that I possibly can. And shout out to Chris as well. So make sure, guys, if you haven't subscribed to his channel, what are you waiting for? He's so close to 800 subscribers, so make sure you subscribe to his channel. And I'm pretty sure, well, let me put it this way, 50-50 that there'll be a post game tonight. Not 100% sure, but 50-50. All right, guys, so I just want to let everybody know there might be a post game tonight. There's a 50-50 chance of that. So just look out for that if I put up a post game today, depending on, of course, you know, work schedule. If I fall asleep and go to work, we'll see how that one goes. But make sure you subscribe to the channel, guys. My channel and Chris's channel as well. I know most of you have, but the easier way for us to get subscribers is from help from you guys. And that's two ways to do it. Hit on that like button. The more likes you get on a stream, the more it gets to the top of the list for people who want to watch this type of content. And on top of that, click on that share button and share to your social media pages. When you share the stream to X or Facebook or Instagram, all of your social media pages, a lot more people see it. We can get out to as many people as possible. And of course, there's no problems when we have disagreements, because that's why we are here, right? We are here because we want to bring you the most interactive, most honest opinions, even if you don't like our opinions and you disagree with us more often than not. Listen, last night, right, and on Mets Talk Live this morning, right, I believe it was Patrick, if I'm not mistaken, who disagreed with me almost every single time, you know. So, and we agreed on something there on one of those comments, and we disagree on everything. We're always going back and forth. So it's about the back and forth that I like the most. Now, I'm not going to speak for Chris on what he likes the most about being a content creator with the Mets, talking about the Mets and the Knicks and the Rangers, right? But I just wanted to make sure everybody knows that we do appreciate you guys. And just because we might disagree on certain topics or most topics doesn't mean that I don't appreciate everything there. Meech, how you doing, Brad? We got D, we got Robert, we got Duran, we have Daniel. I know there's other people there right now. I know there's some people still working. I actually got emails from some people saying that they listen to me at work when I put shows on, and they appreciate that I am bringing them content while they're at work. So if you're working right now, I appreciate you guys. Either you're watching or we're winning, or you're listening, excuse me. I appreciate it. And yes, guys, we need a win, boys. D, you're 100% right. And that's where we're going to start with, right? We're going to start with the win, right? That's what we need, right? the first day after D-Day, as I call it, is the players' meeting. The day after that was game number 1, D-Day. 51 games left of the season as of today, before the deadline. This is game 2 of D-Day, the players' only meeting. So yesterday was nice. The guys that you expect to come through came through. I know Nimmo's struggling, and if you vote on that poll, where would you like to see Nimmo hit other than third? If you want him to continue to hit in third and you believe in him in that third spot, please vote on that. But vote where you think he should be batting. I think he should be batting in a 2-hole. And the reason why is because I don't want to move Lindor, who is actually coming along and looking better. That's one of the guys you need in this lineup. It's obvious. We need Nimmo as well. Pete Alonso's back in the lineup after getting hit in the hand a couple days ago. We need Nimmo to get going, and I think Pete Alonso can still be the man at the number 3 spot. I would put Nimmo at number 2. He would have Alonso behind him, Lindor in front of him, and I think Nimmo will be able to take more pitches in the 2-hole. He don't have that pressure of being a run producer, which he really is not, right? I know we all try to make him that, or a lot of us try to make Brandon Nimmo as this guy that's a big run producer. He's not. It's just that when Lindor and Alonso are not doing their job and they're having bad seasons, and Nimmo is the best of the bunch right now, it doesn't mean that he's the best. He's the run producer that you want in the 3-hole, because he's never been that in his career, and we're trying to make him something he's not. And I think that hurts Nimmo mentally. I think he goes up with a different approach, and the proof is in the pudding. He's had, I believe, over 20 strikeouts, and I said it on the Mets Talk Live. He had 41 at-bats in 11 games, batting 195, 2 RBIs, 1 home run, 20 strikeouts. OPS is a 606, slugging 293. That's not going to get it done if you're going to be in the 3-hole for long term. It's just not going to happen. I actually trust Pete Alonso in the 3-hole because I know he can drive in the runs. I don't think Nimmo is driving in the runs in the 3 spot when he clearly knows that he needs to do it in that 3-hole, because Lindor is not going to get a ton of RBIs in a leadoff spot. We all know that. That's why Nimmo doesn't get a ton of RBIs, because of the guys that are probably not on base at the bottom of the order. But let's talk about this lineup today, guys. Right? A ton of news came out today. Omar Narvaez has been designated for assignment. Brett Beatty has been sent down. Christian Scott has been sent down. A lot of people were not happy about Christian Scott being sent down. I believe, and it seems that way, some people don't believe it, but that's okay. We can have difference of opinions on that. Christian Scott is going to pitch one more time over the next 9 days. Probably 10 days, give or take a couple of days off. The Mets have 3 days off over the next week and a half, right? So he's really only going to pitch once. And I think the Mets want to keep him on a schedule, and also on an everyday 5th-day schedule. And on top of that, they want to make sure that his pitch count and his innings are not going overboard, because if he's pitching in the majors, it's kind of hard to control his innings when, 1, you need victories, and 2, when he's pitching well, you don't want to take him out of a ball game because of innings limits. And I think that's where they want to control over the situation. They realize over the next 2 weeks, they have a ton of days off. They can fix their lineup, their rotation the way it is, where it needs to be. And with the 3 days off over the next, I think it's 10 days, he's not pitching more than once. So it's better to send him down, get an extra bullpen on that is definitely needed. You bring up Jose Iglesias, who's been crushing it in the minors, on the veteran guy who can play all 3 left side of the infield, second, third, and short. He's been hitting very well. You got Vientos, because the Beatty sent down is now the third baseman. He's got a big opportunity here to hold on to that and never let it go. Again, I don't believe in him defensively, but if he hits, they'll find a way to get his bat into the lineup, even if it's not at third base. Or if it has to be at third base, as long as he's not the worst third baseman in baseball and is a butcher at third base and is at least competent at third base, Mark Vientos is going to be the guy, but he has an opportunity now. For all the Met fans that think that Vientos deserves a shot and needs the opportunity, well, it's here. He's at least going to get probably a month, maybe a little more than that, probably a month and a half. So if he has that much time and that opportunity, he better run with it, because I'm going to tell you this right now. If Vientos can't win a job that they're basically trying to give him, well, Vientos and Beatty might be on their way out at the end of the year, because Mauricio is going to play third base, most likely, or he might play second base. But there's a pretty good chance Mauricio is going to be the third baseman of the future going forward when he comes back. So the lineup is looking the way I don't like Marte in the fifth spot. I would rather move Vientos up in the fifth spot, but I'm not going to go crazy there. Again, Nimmo needs to bat second. Alonso got to go back to third. I like the 1 through 4 that way. Jose Iglesias, I love in the 8th spot. He kind of lengthens that lineup a little bit. I think Jose Iglesias, and the other reason why Jose Iglesias is on this roster right now, not only is that it provides depth in the infield positions, but if Vientos does look bad at third base defensively and is not playing well, guess who's going to be playing third base? Jose Iglesias. There's a backup plan there, and David Stern set it up that way, because I don't believe they believe that Vientos is going to be the third baseman of the future, or at least the third base for the rest of the season, because I don't think they believe in him defensively. He's been positionless for years. Why you think that they've been trying to get him at bats, but when you suck in the field, you're not a first baseman, you're not really a third baseman, you can't play the outfield, well, you're positionless. You don't really have a set position. You don't really have a main position they can throw you at, because they don't trust you defensively. He can change a lot of minds here, but he has to do it. And we have to understand that it's not just all about the bat, right? Defense matters. This Mets team has lost a lot of games this year because of the defense. You cannot lose games because of defense consistently. This team has done it, especially when David Stern made it a point for defensive run saves and defense to be a priority. You can't tell me that Vientos is a good third baseman when he has not proven it yet. Again, his opportunity is here, so it's time to get it done. There's nothing else. There's no excuses anymore. Mark Vientos has the opportunity every single day. He'll probably play 5-6 days a week. Good. Give him the opportunity. If he plays well, great. That's just more options for the Mets. All right. Explosive says, in a perfect world, Scott and Allen and Vazel are leading in this rotation. Well, that's not even a perfect world. That's a fantasy, because Matt Allen, I don't know what's wrong with Matt. Matt Allen's been injured. He has great stuff. I've seen him pitch in spring. I've seen him pitch in the minors, in A ball and AA. He got great stuff. He just can't stay healthy. So it's more of a fantasy. Scott and Vazel is very possible. Even Tidwell. I would not be shocked if the Mets go really hard after maybe 2 or 3 bats this offseason and really use their young pitching as rotation pieces. I would not mind that one bit. If Kodai Senga can come back healthy, you gotta ace at the top of the rotation, and you gotta, if you get 2, maybe 3 guys from your farm, if it's Scott, Tidwell, and Vazel in your rotation with Kodai Senga, and then you only got to get maybe another pitcher, maybe if you do want to get a big number 1, if you want to get Corbin Burns, but only spend a little bit, like 1 on really good starter, and then the rest on bats, and spend a ton of money out there, you can do that. Now you're using your farm system for pitching, and who knows, with the Drew Gilbert situation and the Jet Williams situation. Again, guys, we have to understand one thing here. Because the Mets have really good prospects now, and a lot of them, like Nimmo and Lindor, is not going nowhere, right? So wherever Nimmo decides is going to be playing, most likely left field, you do have center field and right field available, because I think Marte is going to be gone after this season. So you got right field and center field to deal with. Depending on if you get Soto or Santander or both, Nimmo can be back at center field because one of them's going to play left and one of them's going to play right. On top of that, you got to look at the possibilities where the infield, if Jeff McNeil is gone, and say if Vientos does play well at third base, Mauricio is probably going to go to second. So now you got a couple of guys in your farm system that are blocked by young guys. What do? Well, there's a possibility of a trade. That's why this trade deadline is going to be very important, because if the New York Mets find a way to make a little bit of a run and stay within striking distance of a wild card, I don't think David Stern's going to blow it up. I think it really has to be at least 4 games or more out of a wild card spot by the deadline for him to really do that, really make be sellers at the deadline. So that's where we are with that. So there's a lot to go on, but you got guys with opportunities here like Vientos. Brett Beatty got the opportunity last year, and he got the opportunity the first couple of months this year. Too bad. You lost it. Who knows? You know, it's possible that it could be a flip job, and Beatty is now your backup third baseman or something. Who knows? But Vientos has the opportunity now. There's other guys in the farm. I know Jet Williams is hurt. Drew Gilbert should be coming back soon. So these guys are hurt right now, but Mauricio should be on his way back. I believe his rehab's going very well. I think the one report, I don't know if it was Joe DeMayo or one of the minor league reporters, talked about him doing very well. His rehab's going really well, and giving him enough time to get healthy is important because he will be a part of this team. We don't talk about Mauricio enough when he was going to be the third baseman this year. That was a huge blow to the New York Mets because I don't think anybody thought Beatty or Vientos was going to beat that guy out for third base. And either Vientos or Beatty was going to be one of the guys that were going to remain on the roster. Most likely Vientos, because he has options. He could play first, he could play third, he can DH. Brett Beatty can only play third and probably can't DH. I mean, he could, I guess, but not really. So, all right, guys, we got about 15 minutes until game time. We got Luis Severino on the mound for the New York Mets, and it is game 57 probable. It's not 56. Again, I love my typos. Typos are fun. Game 56 result, Mets win 3-2. Lindor 4-for-4 with a home run, 2 RBIs, and the big home run. The guy who became a Met officially yesterday, JD Martinez, hit a go-ahead home run in the 8th inning to keep the Mets ahead. And Garrett Reed gets the save in the 9th, and Mets win 10 games under 500. Again, the reason why this isn't terrible, even though we would like to be closer to 500, is that the National League is so bad. The second and third wildcard team are both 1 game over 500. They've consistently been under 500 consistently all season. They're back and forth. They're 2 games under. They're 1 game under. They're 1 game over 500. They're back and forth. And the reason why I still feel there's a chance to make a wild card run is because the second and third wild card is obtainable. If you have a really good week, if you have a 7-game stretch where you go 5-2, a 10-game stretch where you go 7-3, even 6-4, you're gaining games on these guys, right? The homestand, because you had the Giants and the Diamondbacks, 2 teams who were in front of you. And look, the Mets have a prime opportunity here. If you take 3 out of 4, or God forbid if I say it, sweep the Diamondbacks, you pass them in the wild card. You pass 2 teams in that wild card spot in a matter of 3 days. And who knows, if Washington doesn't continue to fall and not play and lose, you might pass them over the next 3 or 4 days. Like, you can literally in 1 week pass 4 teams. The margin of error, or the margin of games back from these teams are a week away, a week stretch away from being right where you were in the start of May. You were a 500 team at the end of April. You were right there in a wildcard spot, 1 game from a wildcard spot. And you only lost 4 games, 4.5 games in a wildcard in a month. It could have been a lot worse, guys. If 1 or 2 of those teams took off and had a tremendous May, we wouldn't be talking about this. But because they haven't, and they've been basically 500 at best, maybe a game over, maybe 2 games, they've kept on coming back down to earth. So unless 2 teams that are in the second and third wild card go on a crazy run, and it's kind of very unobtainable to catch these guys and jump over 4 or 5 teams, then we could talk about other things. But right now, give us a week of good baseball. Go 5-2. Go 7-3. 8-2. Like it's not unheard of. It's as close games as the Mets played over this whole season. In May, they've lost 10 games with leads after the 7th inning. 10. Again, do the math. If they win half of those games, if they go 5-5 in those games, look at the record. They would be 2 or 3 games under 500 instead of 10. That's a huge difference. That means you're probably about a game and a half out of first place, out of a wild card spot. That's how minuscule of a difference it is. If you win half of those close games, it makes everything different. Yeah, Sanders. And you know what? This is why people don't understand why David Stearns is good. David Stearns had to throw a lot of stuff at the wall and see what sticks, right? There wasn't a lot of moves he could have really made. They went after Yamamoto. They didn't get him, right? If you look at all the other players that were available free agency wise, they haven't really played well. So we haven't really been losing out, right? We were never going to trade for Juan Soto, right? Corbin Burns wasn't an option in a trade because the Mets weren't going to trade prospects at the moment. So the 2 guys that I would have loved to trade for, they weren't going to do it at that moment in the offseason. Now, this offseason, different story. But remember, it's going to be very interesting when it comes down to what David Stearns has been doing here for the last 2 months. If you don't do your job and they don't feel like you're helping this team, you're gone. Omar Narvaez, people think that was just who cares? It's Omar Narvaez. You paid him $10 million, $20 million over 2 seasons. You're paying the rest of his salary over $10 million to be DFA'd. People think this is a joke. Like, that's not a small amount of money. A lot of teams don't do that. Like, that's a big deal. And what that leads to is when Alvarez comes back, probably in a week or 2, Nito's going to be a backup. Now you got a catcher combination that I'm confident in. Alvarez coming back, and we finally get to see him at a long term for this year with JD Martinez and Lindor playing. I mean, I can't wait for Alvarez to come back. The energy he's going to provide, man, oh man. Yeah, exactly. Easy, right? So many people wanted Snell. Some people wanted Chapman. Some people wanted Bellinger. Some people wanted the Mets to go after Snell. None of them have been good. So it was very hard for David Stearns to make it, quote unquote, his team this year, right? It's very hard to do it when the majority of your core guys were going to be here and your rotation guys, there was none. So he had to get what was really available. Blake Snell wouldn't have been a good option for the Mets, right? So a lot of these 1-year, 2-year deal with options was obtainable, right? You were expecting Kodai Senga to be here. You can't predict an injury. But let's be honest, guys. The starting pitching he's brought in here haven't been really that bad. They've been better than expected. If the offense was competent or above average, we wouldn't be talking about a team that's 10 game under 500. I can guarantee you that. We'd be closer to 500 than where we are right now. So David Stearns is consistently changing guys on these rosters when they're not doing the job. And now that he has an owner that's not afraid to cough up $10 million to Omar Narvaez and DFA him in May. The Mets did not have to DFA Omar Narvaez. Nobody was expecting that to happen. That's a $10 million down the drain there that he's going to be playing on another team, and the Mets will be paying that. Like, that's not crazy. Like, that's crazy. Especially teams, owners Don't do that so early in the season. You might see that in August to add a roster spot for maybe a minor league guy to bring up a prospect or something like that, or late in the season where you're trying to look for a spark. Not in May. That doesn't happen. And clearly David Stearns had to ask Steve Cohen, hey, I think we should get rid of Omar Navarro, especially when Alvarez has come back. Nino deserves to be the backup catcher. He's played well. And Cohen's like, do what you got to do. So you already see it. I don't want to make people clear of this. David Stearns has full reins of this team, this roster. Steve Cohen is giving him the financial capability to make the moves he needs to make roster-wise when you're only in May. You can't make big trades, right? The Marlins with Luis Arraez is the Marlins doing what the Marlins always do, right? You got to realize that there ain't much David Stearns can do except roster manipulation with the farm system and the major league roster. That's all they can do right now. And that's the thing. Like, people are like, oh, how can you trust Steve Cohen? Oh, he's not the King Cohen. Even though I don't want to call him that, but Steve Cohen, like, people are getting on Cohen. It's like, do you know what he has done in 2 seasons where no owner would ever do that? No owner would pay over almost $80 million to pitchers to play for somebody else just to get back prospects. Because Steve Cohen knows if you were going to try to build a farm system, the way you do that is a complete rebuild. And they're not in that area of doing that because you have Lindor and Nimmo's contract that if you do a full rebuild, you're not trading those guys unless you're going to eat all their money, or the majority of it. No team is going to give you much if you're not paying all their salary. That's a difficult long-term contract to get rid of. So you're going to waste Nimmo and Lindor's prime years while you rebuild. That's silly. So you can't go do a complete rebuild for anybody who actually thinks they can do that. Right? On top of that, David Stearns, or at least David Stearns in the shadows when Billy Epler was GM last year, and Steve Cohen saw an opportunity to eat some money last trade deadline to build a farm system the unnatural way of doing it. Because the real way of doing it is to completely trade everybody and lose 90 to 100 losses for the next 3 to 4 seasons to get high draft picks. That's how you rebuild a farm system. But you can't do that because you lose the prime years of Nimmo and Lindor, and you're going to tell your New York fan base for the next 4 seasons, we're going to be a terrible team. You don't do that, all right? As much as the Wilpons lost, at least they try to spill you give you a bill of goods and say, oh, this team is not that bad. Like they kind of made you believe it in spring training sometimes, right? But they were never that good. But they just did a little bit enough to not be a terrible team, but be an average team. And the reason why the Wilpons had terrible farm systems, 1, they couldn't draft. 2, they were always in the middle of the pack in drafting because they weren't that bad, but they were still not good. And it was that fine line where they were always in the middle of the pack in drafting. And when you don't draft well in the middle of the pack, you're in trouble. So Steve Cohen found a way to do it differently. And guess what that was? Trading big guys, eat the money to get the prospect. So David Stearns has the authority to lose out on some money. That's awesome. That is awesome. And to make Stearns does what he wants to do with the roster, even if it's going to cost Steve Cohen. Because you got to remember, guys, the other guys that they DFA'd as well. That's $1 million here, $2 million there. Steve Cohen already lost out on like $13 to $15 million here. So that's a little crazy. Already in May. It's not even July yet, and he's doing that. So it shows you that Cohen is willing to eat some money for David Stearns to do what he needs to do. So that's great. So let's finish up, guys. Mets are 23-33, looking to win some more games here against the Diamondbacks team. That's a few games in front of them in that wild card standings. Beat them. Win 3 out of 4 at the very least, but try to go for the sweep. Jordan Montgomery hasn't been pitching well. You got to get to him early, or he figures it out later in the ball game. Luis Severino has been solid. Let's score some runs for the guy. Finally, give him some run support here. Let's see if the Mets can get a victory tonight, guys, against the Diamondbacks. With that said, guys, the Amazing Mets pregame show is in the books. We will see you tomorrow, me and Chris, for pre and post game. And I might throw in a video or a couple of shorts here and there throughout the day based on the pre and post game talk conversations and shows we have. I will clip some short videos to put up there as well. And as you've seen, the trailer, when you were in the stream, you got to watch what I talked about on the Mets Talk Live in the morning. If you missed it, you were able to see the one clip from that show. And that's what I'm going to do going forward, is to post a couple of clips throughout the day from pre and post game. So if you missed it, you get the main points of that show through those clips. So with that said, let's go Mets. Let's go Luis Severino. Let's get another victory here. And let's get 3 out of 4 or a sweep of the Diamondbacks, who are not playing well right now. With that said, everybody have a great night. Let's go Mets. Look out for post game tonight. 50-50 chance there might be one. Have a great day, guys. Let's go Mets. Have a great night. We'll see you next time.
Meet the Mets, meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life, because the Mets